Dunkirk is the newest film written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and it is honestly one of the most unique and interesting and original war films I've ever seen.
They need to send more ships. Every hour the enemy pushes closer. They've activated the civilian boats. Civilians? We need destroyers.
Most war films that are set in World War II, because, Hollywood is from America, they generally feature American battles. And in this one, it is a strictly European battle, with Germany mainly against the French and the English. And it's a battle that I'd heard of but didn't know that much about. But essentially, they were in France and they were losing ground, and they had their backs against the wall with only the sea separating them from home. And, when on a clear day, you could maybe even see the mainland or see England, but there's no way to get there. Because they're trapped on this beach with German troops surrounding them, and like thin ducks, like while the airplanes pick them off and bomb them, and then their ships come, they try to bomb the ships. It's pretty much just a horrible experience. And I know, and I've read some stuff about it, in that there's a lot of mistakes made by the English that led up to this. And I mean, there's multiple ways you could have examined this story. You have the story of all the shitfest of everything that went wrong. Then you have the story of the English citizen coming to save their soldiers in their boats. And they could do that heartfelt sort of story. And they do a little bit of each, but it's more focused on, they don't even really talk about Germans and Nazis. I mean, if you didn't know about the war, you wouldn't know, that guy's a Nazi. Or they're the Nazis are coming. That doesn't matter for this. And it's really interesting. I've never seen anything quite like it. Almost all war movies, they want to try to portray the Germans as they're bad people. And I mean, they don't like them in here, but they hardly take place in them. Whenever they do see them, they're, far away shooting at them. Or they're in the other plane that's having the dogfight. And I really like that, because everyone knows of what World War II was about. Everyone knows all the common tropes and things that happened in the World War II and stories we tell about them. And this Dunkirk kind of avoided all of that. So the story essentially follows three different time frames and groups of people, and what they're doing. They try to get multiple views on the battle and what happened. And it is an interesting idea, but because there are three separate time frames, and you're kind of switching back and forth in the movie when the times are passing differently, it can be slightly confusing. But I think if you just go along with it, I don't see a problem with it. And there's actually some really interesting things where a character that will show up in one part, you'll see him the night before in the other part. And it's kind of interesting how it's so they're not obvious about it. The character may look a little different in the next one after he's been in the water for a while. So I know when I see it with someone else, they didn't even realize that what happened. And I think it's really cool little, well, not an Easter egg, but something interesting that it doesn't really affect anything, but it's kind of cool. And they could have done something where, each time they switch a scene, they could have done a timestamp at the bottom or something like that to show that, what time it is and when it is and what's going on. But I think that would have lost some of the immersiveness of the movie if you had something telling you what's going on and where it is and when it is. And I didn't really mind that. Not every once in a while when some of the edits you might not quite know. The only thing I would say, I may have liked them all to come together a little bit earlier, because at a certain point they're almost together, but they're kind of jumping back and forth towards the end. And I think those scenes could have been tightened up a little bit, but I still loved that, all the aspects of the film. So the one part of the film is featuring a soldier on the beach, I believe it, Finn Whitehead, and this is one that's almost like a silent film. Like a lot of stuff is kind of like a silent film, but this one especially, because he's just in the moment, going from like all those people around him being killed and running to the beach, and all this stuff's going on. But like he meets this guy that's burying a soldier and taking his boots, and he helps him bury him, and this guy then almost like becomes his friend for the rest of the movie. And it's so interesting because like they have this unspoken bond. Like they never talk to each other, and they just like kind of look at each other and know, okay, with this moment we have to do this to survive, and they help each other do that. And it's really, interesting. I haven't seen anything quite like that. And then later you get Harry Styles come in with them, and there's like a threesome there. Not an actual threesome, but there's other soldiers too. And their story is to get the viewpoint of a soldier on the beach. And it's really cool because they essentially play musical ships. A World War II version of musical chairs. When they get on a ship and it's exploded, they get on a ship and it's exploded. They get on they go through a lot of shenanigans to get to the end of the movie. And the time frame for that is like a couple of days, like 2 days or maybe a little bit more. And the second time frame is this family that's requisitioned to take their boat and go over and pick up soldiers to come back home. And that's, features Mark Rylance and his son, and this is a young friend that they have. And then they pick up a soldier that was the last living person that was on the boat. And he's shell-shocked and doesn't want to go back to Dunkirk. This story is meant to give, a look at one of the people on the boats coming to save the soldiers. And there's some interesting stuff that happens with them, but it's probably my least favorite part of the film. Like whenever you went to them, it's a little slower, and it loses that silent film aspect because they talk with each other. And it see what they're going for, and it works well, and everyone is great in it. But it's not as impressive as the other parts of the film. But it's really cool when they connect to the other parts of the movie at the end. It's pretty cool. And their timeline is essentially one day, while they travel across the sea to pick people up. And the third and final part of the film is the dogfights with the British Air Force and mainly Tom Hardy. And, that's like 1 hour, one action-packed hour of him, trying to protect the boats and, by fighting off all the other airplanes. And that is, I think, the most impressive part of the movie, especially towards the end. Things that happen with Tom Hardy's character is just, it's incredible. It really is enthralling, and it's heart-pounding, and, it's awe-inspiring. Things that happen, it's really good. And I've never seen dogfights quite like that, because it feels real. And that's the biggest thing too, because obviously there is CGI in this film. They couldn't do a lot of the stuff that they did without CGI. But I never once looked at it like, oh, that's CGI. That's obviously CGI. I never once noticed a shot that didn't look real. Every moment with Tom Hardy and his Spitfire and fighting off the German planes is just so amazing and perfect. And the sound is different. The sound, it is impressive because you can see what the TIE fighters, what they based their sound off of. I assume it must be on this plane, because it sounds almost like TIE fighters are swooping down and fighting each other. It's really it's really cool. And it's so many moments with it, especially towards the end, are just ridiculous, and it's so good. And I loved this part of the film especially, but the whole film I just really enjoyed it. And I think that it'll hold up well because there's not that much story, so it's just you're watching a spectacle, and the all this, the heroics. And I love too, that people are heroes, but people are also selfish. People are cowards. They're not just random people. They do things that are both heroic and cowardly in the name of survival. All three storylines have different aspects of heroism, and there's so many interesting things that this story tells without like coming out and being obnoxious about it. But like, you never have a moment where like they talk to each other. Oh, my mom back in England is worrying about me, doing this. Oh, I have a girl back in England, that, or there's no moments like that. And you even have some moments where they could have done something like that, although it would have broken parts of the storyline. But, instead they're just exhausted after another of their ships having been blown up. And they're just, on the beach, staring almost dead-eyed at the ocean and thinking about trying to get to the other side. And, like, even trying to break open the can and eat some cold beans or whatever it is, while they can. And those moments like that, they don't need to speak. Like, if you're just living in their horrific moments of war, I don't think you speak. You're just kind of dead to the world until, like, you hope you find another way to survive. And there's so many moments like that in the beach portion of the film that are really interesting viewpoint of the battle and what happened. And you also have, among the other viewpoints, you have one reoccurring one that kind of goes in with the soldier storyline of Kenneth Branagh as like the general or whatever, and trying to get everybody as much as they can home. But they have 400,000 soldiers, but the Churchill wants to get at least 30,000 back. They'll need them for when Germany comes for England. And, that's like, you lose hundreds of thousands of people potentially. And, he wants to try to save as many as possible. And as a whole, I just love this film. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I know some people criticize that the lack of characterization, but I think you get a lot of character in just them not speaking. You don't have to know every moment of their backstory to still be in this movie with them and be enthralled by what's happening. And, I think I give it like a 9.75 out of 10. Yeah, I don't know if it's a perfect film, but I absolutely loved it, and I really think people should watch it. Especially, in your theater. Go to the biggest theater around you, or biggest screen you can find it on, and check it out. It's a really great film, and I'd highly recommend it. But you can, thanks for watching, and you can see my other movie review or book reviews and other things I do over here, or subscribe to me over there. Thanks for watching.